So this gospel comes from the Sermon of the Beatitudes, which begins in chapter 5. Chapter 5, 6, and 7 make up the Sermon of the Beatitudes. It started with the Beatitudes. And in this gospel, Jesus, he has different themes contained in this gospel. And so what I want to do this morning is I want to reflect on anger, because I think that anger is one of the most misunderstood emotions that we all feel. At one point or another, we will deal with anger. What is anger? If we really pay attention, anger is the symptom of something else, usually. Whenever you feel angry about something, if you pay attention at that moment or maybe later during the day, you will notice that that's only the surface, that underneath it, there may be other feelings that you may not be aware of. Sometimes it may be frustration. Sometimes it can be when we perceive an injustice. So for example, when you are driving on Route 22, right? Somebody cuts you off. How do you feel immediately, right away, without even thinking about it? What happens to you? What happens to us? Do we like it? I can see sometimes when I'm driving and I see I see somebody that was cut off, how he moved his hands, you know? Or let's say that you have been waiting in line to get a coffee, to get cappuccino, Starbucks, and you have been waiting there for a while. Somebody cuts you off. How do you feel at that moment? You feel angry. We feel angry because we see that there is an injustice, that you have been waiting there for a while and this person just came and cut you off. And you know that it's not right. So whenever we perceive an injustice, the immediate emotions, reactions from us is that we feel anger. So when does it become sinful? When Jesus says, if you're angry with your brother, you will be liable to judgment. He is saying, what Jesus is saying, that anger becomes a sin when it turns into hostility. When it turns into hostility. We know what happens if we feed the anger in our heart. We become bitter, we become resentful, and then what comes out of our mouth, we know that we can hurt people. That's why the longer version of today's gospel says that if you call your neighbor Raka, a Hebrew word, which can be translated as idiot, you will be liable to judgment, because we know. So let's say that you are feeling angry about something. If you feed it, if you fuel that anger, you know that it can escalate. You know that it can get bigger and bigger and bigger. And what happens? Whatever we say, we know that we will hurt somebody, a loved one, a family member, your spouse, your friends, whoever is around you. So St. Paul says in the letter to the Ephesians that anger is a sin when it lasts more than one day. Again, anger is a normal emotion. We all feel it. It becomes a sin when we feel it, when we act on it. When we act on it. We are called as disciples of Christ not to allow the emotions to control us, but we, because of the Holy Spirit, because of the grace of the Holy Spirit, we can control our emotions. We can grow in self-control. We can grow in virtues. Again, it all depends on what we do, whether we react or whether we can control ourselves. And that's what we have to be clear about, that this is something that we all deal with. As I was meditating in these Gospels yesterday, I went to pick up some food in the afternoon. I went to Union. I went to this area in Union that I have never been there before. And I was driving back, and there was a car in front of me, and in front of that car, there was a young woman riding her scooter in the middle of the street. And I said, what is she doing? I felt angry at that moment, and I tell you why. I said, what is she doing? She was careless. She was in the middle of the street. She was driving, she was riding the scooter, and I said to myself, what if a car hits her? She could die. And I tell you what was going on in my mind. I was thinking about the person that was killed on Route 22 last week. I don't know if you heard of it, but somebody was killed on Route 22. Somebody who was riding a scooter. So I was thinking that could happen to that young woman. And that was so. I felt angry at the moment. I let it go. I mean, it's not that stayed with me for the whole day. But underneath those feelings, I could tell that I was concerned about her safety, that she could have been killed, And again, it all depends on how we manage our emotions. Jesus himself, in the Gospels, he was angry a couple of times when he was in the temple. When he was frustrated to see what they were doing in the temple, he was angry. Again, when he realized that the Pharisees and the scribes refused to embrace his message, Jesus felt angry as well. It is a normal emotion. We all feel it. And it is healthy to be aware of this. Again, it depends on what we do about it.